And welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who would do as good of a job playing center as Ezekiel Elliott did. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. That was a brutal play call in. He just got absolutely smoked on the play. I don't know who drew that one up.
Yeah, does Mike McCarthy hate Ezekiel Elliott? Like, what was that?
Yeah, that felt like punishment.
Yeah, I don't know what poor Ezekiel Elliott did to deserve that. But yeah, plenty of stuff to get to. Very fun week. I'll be honest, a bit of a bummer. Didn't think this was wasn't a ton of great games as we might have hoped for. But that's the NFL. Sometimes you don't get some great ones. We still got some good ones here.
Yeah, there was a couple good games I thought this weekend. At least competitive moments. Like outside of Giants Eagles, I think every game had a moment where it got interesting, right? Even if it didn't end up playing out that way.
Yeah, I thought so as well. I also think that, we'll get into each game, talk about what happened, all that stuff. I have to say, though, Kyle, I think, start the show, I think the best four teams are in the Final Four. This doesn't always happen. I think this happened this year. I think that we have two great matchups. I looked at the lines. They're both within 3 points right now. This feels like an awesome conference championship ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, if you asked everybody in like week 13, week 14 to, give us, pick four teams for the Final Four, these are probably the consensus four picks at this point, right? So
yeah, I think Buffalo might have been the only other one that people would have said.
Yeah, I think there would have been some picks for Buffalo, but at the same time, we'll get into it, but they kind of, they looked a little lifeless a lot towards the end of the season compared to where they were at the start. So, I thought these four teams have played fantastic football, basically from the second half of the season on. And, they played fantastic. And that's why we kind of had some big games or big wins, I thought, in this week.
Yeah, let's just jump into it. Why don't we? Let's just get into the games. Let's start off with the most recent one, as this was the best game. We sort of previewed expecting it to be the game of the week. It ended up being that way. A very competitive game, very fascinating game throughout. Kyle, Cowboys getting better every year, going from losing to the 49ers in the wildcard round to losing to 49ers in the divisional round.
So 2 more years and they'll have that Super Bowl finally. Actually, they got to lose the Super Bowl.
They got to lose Super Bowl 2 to 49ers somehow.
Yeah, so just give it like 3 more years and you got it, Cowboys fans. You know what? The score wasn't great in this game. This was a fun game. I thought this was a really well-played game from both sides. I thought, it was just fun because not only was it competitive towards basically until the very end, I thought, it's fun to watch stars play football. I think that's the best thing. Stars are the main attraction to football games. And I thought the stars of this game were borderline awesome. I thought McCaffrey was probably the one star that you felt a little disappointed in, but I guess he was dealing with the calf thing. Kittle came up with multiple big plays in this one. You look on the defensive side of the ball, Bosa had big plays. Fred Warner had some big plays. Hufanga had some big plays. And then on the Cowboys side, like DeMarcus Lawrence, I thought was unbelievable in this game. I thought Micah Parsons had his normal, impactful game. I thought, and CeeDee Lamb was really good too. So I thought overall on both sides, I thought the stars of both teams showed up in this one.
Yeah. Although one guy who has a star on his helmet that I think is fair to say did not maybe show up in this one. Well, let's just talk about it. Dak Prescott comes in, and we talked about the way that the Cowboys can win the Super Bowl is if they can get an elite Dak Prescott kind of run, like sort of how the Rams did it with Stafford. That's potentially the way to do it. This was not elite. He had 2 interceptions. One looked like it was kind of a miscommunication, but still a very bad throw regardless of the miscommunication. I'll defend it a little bit. The second one was just too risky of a play. And also, only 206 yards on 39 attempts. He not to mention he had a pick 6 that was just dropped. So Prescott did not have his best day. Also, we have a super chat from Joe Wingard, who, at least we get to watch the championship game and Super Bowl neutrally. Yeah. So condolences to Joe. We'll get more into the Giants in a second. But Kyle, your thoughts on Dak?
Yeah, this was a rough game. I don't think he deserves all the blame for the loss. I don't think any one player in football ever deserves all the blame for the loss. That
Sure.
being said, he was bad, and I think a lot of so obviously it seemed like the Cowboys' game plan in this one was get the ball out quick. We don't want Bosa. We don't want this defensive line pinning their ears back and getting after the quarterback in this game. That seemed like the plan. The problem is that a lot of that all of a sudden comes down to your pre-snap reads. You have to know exactly what the coverage is every time you drop back the pass because you have to know where these defenders are standing. You don't have time to process in this quick passing game. He was just off. He wasn't reading this defense, and I thought D'Amico Ryans basically coached up a masterclass in this game, especially with the coverage calls. I thought they did a really good job of mixing up their safeties, their linebackers, who was rushing, who was dropping over and over again. It just seemed like whoever Dak thought was coming towards him, whoever he thought might blitz or might come at him, was dropping into coverage over and over again, and that's what led to mistakes, and that's what cost him, multiple opportunities. I thought in this game.
Yeah, and the other thing too, it's like, listen, you're playing San Francisco, right? Like you don't expect this to be an offensive explosion. You're going. Yes, a couple teams have gotten them, but in this scenario, especially kind of downfield, we thought that it might be tough for them to pass the ball too consistently in this one. That's fine. But then you have to protect the football, and there were just a couple of plays that were just, just not great. It's fair to say. Also, Kenneth Lee in the chat saying Niners are 4-0 against the Packers and Cowboys in the last 4 seasons. You love to see it. Yeah. 3 big playoff wins there against, 2 of the big bads in the NFL. This is, for Prescott, I don't know. This game kind of reminds me a little bit of the maybe this game is on top of my mind because I'm always thinking about this game when the Buccaneers beat the Saints in the playoffs a couple years back, where it was like, both defenses were playing well, but it came down to not which quarterback made the plays necessarily, but which quarterback protected the football. Purdy, it wasn't pretty for a lot of it, but he protected the football. He did not turn the ball over at any point. Prescott put the ball in harm's way, and that was that might have been the difference in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had, like you said, the 2 interceptions. He could have easily had at least a third. I thought Purdy left some balls up in the air that could have been picked too. And the big thing, not only that, the 49ers capitalized on interceptions enough, at least, where
Sure.
the Cowboys, I think, had 2 or 3 opportunities to get interceptions and didn't. They didn't get those opportunities. They didn't convert those opportunities. But yeah, I mean, it did seem like, the least amount of mistakes won this game, and that makes a lot of sense. It was 2 turnovers to 1. It was a 1-score game towards the team with the least amount of turnovers, because both of these defenses, I thought, on a down-to-down basis, played pretty unbelievable for large stretches of this game. I thought, the Cowboys defense wore down a little bit towards the end, but at the end of overall, I thought they were pretty terrific in this game, and I thought they had a really good game plan. Um, you know, I guess my one question about this Cowboys offense and how they approach this game, do you think there should be some criticism for the game plan and how they try to execute? Because listen, I know the San Francisco defensive line is unbelievable. We know this is probably, if not the best unit in the league, defensive line wise. It's one of the top 3 or 4. But even without Shaq Barrett, I don't think Tampa Bay's defensive line is any slouch. And they were able to run all these play action plays, long developing pass plays, and kind of pick them apart. And it just seemed like they didn't want to do any of that in this game. It seemed like everything was, we need to get the ball out in sub 3 seconds, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say Tampa Bay's pass rush has been an issue. But I also agree. I think that I don't know. It maybe I guess so. I guess they could have been a little bit more creative. I thought that when they were doing creative stuff early on in the game, it was working. So I think that you could have kept with that stuff. I think I probably agree.
Yeah, and maybe Pollard coming out of the game played a part in that. Not having him to be able to run those long extended play action.
There's your backup center out of the game.
Yeah, yeah, no, big part of that offense at the backup center spot. But yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting because they did have that one soaring drive where you were right. They were able to hit a few shots downfield. CeeDee Lamb came up with a couple big catches, and that was it. But I just keep coming back to we talked about in the pregame show, on Wednesday afternoon, we talked about San Francisco does have a tendency to be beat on the outside every now and then. That's the one probably weakness of this defense. And I think I even said Schultz and Gallup have to have big games. They did not have big games. They couldn't win outside. They couldn't get separation. Gallup in particular, I mean, Did he even get a yard of separation total on all of his routes run this game? Like, it just seemed like he did nothing.
Yeah, Gallup a minus 4.4 EPA when targeted in this one. Schultz minus 1.6. In fact, the only Dallas players who had positive EPA when targeted in this one was T.Y. Hilton and Noah Brown. So was not ideal for Dallas. As you know, just coverage is good. I agree with you though. It's like you watch these games and sometimes you just like just take a shot downfield. Like if you're
Mhm.
not getting these 12 play drives to work, throw one. You know, it worked when you got CeeDee Lamb. You got a one-on-one there. You didn't have a ton of one-on-ones, but like you can find a way to get CeeDee Lamb one-on-one down the field and take a shot.
Yeah, and there was actually one Gallup play where they went downfield and it looked like he might have had a step. The ball
Hmm.
placement wasn't great on the throw, but I mean, at the same time, like it seemed like you had opportunities to throw the ball a little bit more downfield, and it just seemed like they were uninterested in even challenging this defensive line and having Dak make big throws in the pocket under pressure, which that was their game plan, that was their decision. It kind of backfired in this one, and I'm sure the running, Pollard going down, I do think is a huge part of this offense, even though it is only a running back. I do think,
Hmm.
their ability to set up the passing game with their running game. This is one of the few teams I feel like that's important.
Yeah, and I think about kind of my last thought about the Cowboys is we talked about their biggest issue heading into the season. Why I was very low on them, I had them missing the playoffs heading into the season, was their lack of number two options outside of CeeDee Lamb, who I didn't fully love as a number one. He proved me wrong. He was the number one this year, but outside of that, who they have, I think it's telling that in this game where they lose, the second highest leading receiver was Dalton Schultz with just 27 yards. This was
Mhm.
they were not able to get other guys open consistently, or to be when they were open, they weren't, throws weren't being made.
Yeah, and Schultz has largely been pretty good this season. So, I mean, I think this was kind of a
Yeah.
disappointing performance, but I think, when they let Amari Cooper go, they were expecting a lot more from Michael Gallup this season, what they got, and it just hasn't worked out. And I definitely think that's probably going to be, position number one to address in the offseason is that outside receiver to complement Lamb and everything he does that is so creative.
Yeah. I have a super chat saying the Skip Bayless meltdown will make this L better. Yeah. Brady losing last week. It's been a tough 6 days for Skip Bayless.
Oh, man. Definitely got to feel for that guy.
Yeah, I think we all feel bad for him. Where do the Cowboys go from here? It feels like this is kind of their ceiling, right? Being like a good team that you're paying Dak Prescott. You have some other key players who are on rookie deals as of right now, so you got to take advantage of that, I guess. But like, it feels like this is a team that I don't. I guess the strategy is you just keep doing this and hope that one of the years you're able to squeak into the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I mean, they are going to try and put as much talent around this team as they can. I mean, the problem is that it's once again like, I mean, look at this Final Four right now. I mean, it's San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan and Jalen Hurts, who's made tremendous leaps this season.
Hmm.
It's Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes again. Like,
And just
it-
say that a little bit, clear too. You have out of the four teams, three of which have quarterbacks on rookie deals. The other one being Mahomes, who isn't on a rookie deal but is Mahomes. And then also two of which are Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow on rookie deals. So you're getting star players on rookie deals. It really goes to show the power of an elite quarterback or a quarterback on a rookie deal.
yeah. So there's going to be two questions. Like, do we need to move on from Dak Prescott because of this situation? We don't feel like he can get us a Super Bowl. That's going to be
Hmm.
the first question. And if you keep him, which is probably what's going to happen because it'd be weird to just get rid of your quarterback, you
Hmm.
have to, just put the talent around him and hope one season he catches fire in the playoffs and wins 3 straight games, 4 straight games. That's basically the roadmap for these teams that don't have a top 5 guy, or San Francisco, which might have the you know we'll get to San Francisco in a second, but they got plenty of talent and reasons to help out a young quarterback over there. So yeah, I mean that's basically what they have to keep going to over and over again, and hope that eventually, the season clicks and they have they have the right run.
Yeah, completely with you on all that. Very fascinating with them. The 49ers, though, I have a couple of thoughts on them. Obviously, we know defense played great. That was, fantastic by them. Jimmy Ward had it's so weird where he had like the a great read, gets the interception, and then just drops the interception, but bats it right to Fred Warner, who gets it. He's like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
But that was a funny play. But for the offense, yeah, Dallas's run defense played shockingly well in this one. I don't think anyone was expecting that. But the two guys I think we have to talk about are first George Kittle with just that one drive was just amazing. Kittle all over the place, charismatic as well as he's making these types of plays. Very fun, sort of star building stuff for Kittle, but also Brock Purdy, who listen. This was a very mature game from Brock Purdy, right? He did not get frustrated when things weren't going well. He did not turn the ball over, which kind of like we said, like that was kind of the thing is, again, yes, okay, not every throw was perfect. Yes, okay, maybe if Dallas makes a play here or there, things can go wrong. But as a whole, he did what he had to do to get this win, which is kind of what he's been doing all season, right? He's played his part to get the victory, which is very impressive from a young player.
Yeah, I mean, he basically because there was a couple plays where because they have been very conservative about how they use Brock Purdy, right? They're not going
Mhm.
to put him in a situation to fail. There's a couple plays where they had these long extended play action rollouts, and he had a lot of space and he had a lot of time, and then all of a sudden there's like a Micah Parsons bearing down on him, and you're like, oh, this could get interesting, this could get scary. And I think off the top of my head, he threw one downfield that a safety could have got, but at the most part, like he when there was nothing there, he wasn't going to force the issue. He was just going to live to fight another down. And like you said, it's a
Mhm.
very mature performance. And he managed the game like his team was the favorite and his team was the better team. And it was all about limiting mistakes for him.
Yeah, I mean, their only turnover came on that stupid fumble. But also, I have to say, what's going on with kickoff returns? Why is kickoff returns are almost always like not notable in this playoffs? I feel like there's been a ton of like very notable kickoffs.
Kickoff returns are back. No, I don't
I
know.
guess so.
It is interesting. It seems like not practicing it as much because they think it's just going to go for a touchback. And so now, like,
Perhaps maybe that's it. Maybe now that it's the playoffs, you're going looking for any edge possible.
yeah. So, I mean, it was an impressive game. I will say, like, so this San Francisco team, like, this wasn't the best McCaffrey game. He was a little banged up, it seemed like, in the second half. But is this like the most impressive group of offensive talent we've ever seen outside of quarterback?
I mean, yeah, it has so many stars. I mean, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, yeah, absolutely. No other team has that many stars on offense.
Yeah. I mean, you can even get into, Williams and McGlinchey. McGlinchey had like two or three run blocks in this game, especially towards late, that were unbelievable and just carved open holes. I mean, it's a impressive group, and this is exactly how you build around a rookie quarterback. Like this is
Yeah,
the perfect situation. And there were some questions about, did they overpay for McCaffrey? I don't think it's the case because I think it's a huge part of their game. And even in a game I would say was bad for McCaffrey standards like tonight, he had a huge third down conversion. He rushed for the winning touchdown, stuff like that. You know, it makes a difference in these close games.
yeah. And what's also crazy thing too is like you think about this Trey Lance situation. Like if they had gone with if they hadn't traded the Trey Lance, right? Traded for Trey Lance, you'd be looking at a situation where that draft pick got used for Micah Parsons, which could have been which is crazy to think about. Obviously, who knows what would have happened in that scenario. But like if they had Micah Parsons and then the pick they had last year was Cole Strange. I don't know if they still draft him, but maybe they go with like George Karlaftis, the next guy, Daxton Hill, Lewis Seen. If they get one of those guys, Christian Watson was available. What if this team had Micah Parsons and Christian Watson? It's kind of crazy to think about that. Even with giving up 3 first-round picks for a quarterback who isn't playing, they're still a completely loaded roster.
Yeah, it was a very good job, and I thought it was a really good, well coached game too. I thought Shanahan and Ryan's basically pushed all the right buttons in this game. I was impressed with them. It wasn't quite as dominant as their wins in the past weeks, but eventually they were just ready to, they had a game plan and they eventually wore this Dallas team down, which I think is what they wanted to do.
Yeah, good win for the 49ers. Also, my last thought about them, continuing the incredible streak, I believe it's since 2010, every single season they've either lost 10 games or been in the NFC Championship.
San Francisco?
Yeah. which is an incredible run. And it's you'd hear that and you think, oh, they went to the NFC Championship like once or twice. Like, no, they've been it's like been like half of the years they've been in the NFC Championship game. The other half they've lost 10 games.
Yeah, I mean it's impressive given the fact that we all talk about this Mahomes streak, which has been impressive with KC, but this is without having a quarterback of Mahomes' stature basically the entire time, be
Mm-hmm.
able to do this over and over again is an impressive feat.
Yeah, you could argue it's more impressive because, like, obviously, like, if you have Mahomes, you're going to be at least close to there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, impressive run. They're back again, and I mean, we'll see how they do in the NFC Championship game, but they're still kind of rolling right now. It's tough to think of who's going to beat this defense.
Yeah. Speaking of back again, we have actually, 3 out of the 4 teams, as someone brought up in the chat, are back in the conference championship this year. Interestingly enough, the Bengals are back, trying to see if they can beat the Chiefs yet again. As I picked the Bills to win this game, I thought this is a tough matchup for Cincinnati. Turns out the opposite was the case, as Cincinnati rolled all over this one. Early on, the Bengals went up 14-0 early, and kind of everyone was saying, oh, wow, Bills, thanks for coming out. This is looking tough. I was kind of like, I don't know. I think the Bills might come back into this one. They did a little bit, but not really. I mean, this was pretty much a wire-to-wire victory for Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was an impressive win. I mean, they got it to 17-10 in the third.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, like, I don't know, it didn't feel threatening at the same time because, it just felt like anytime the Bengals got the ball, unless they like dropped a pass or committed a penalty, it just felt like they were going to get inside the 20 and get a field goal, right? Like it didn't seem
Mm-hmm.
like Buffalo had any game plan to stop them. And they try different things. They try, disguising their coverages. And I mean, Burrow just read everything. He read this team like a book. Leslie Frazier, I think, is the Bills defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He had no answer for this offense. And I think what was most impressive, we talked about, I don't think anyone can beat this Bengals team on the outside. Maybe besides Philadelphia, they have a shot, especially on defense. This Bills team, I definitely didn't think could beat them on the outside. The fact that Cincinnati won this game up front too makes it all the more impressive. Like they
Insane.
they bullied this Buffalo defensive line.
Well, that was the shock to me is, I tweeted out after the first drive of like, I was not expecting the Hakeem Adeniji, masterclass here. I was like, right away, it was like, I think the 4th or 5th play of the game, the commentator, I forget who it was, said, like, oh, what a block by Hakeem Adeniji. And I said, Buffalo's in trouble. That's a concern. If you're hearing that, maybe time to pack it up.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a rough thing. And, I don't know. This Bengals offense is just so impressive. Like they just marched down the field, and it looked a lot reminiscent to the start of that game on Monday night a few weeks ago. And it's just like they're walking the ball down the field, they're doing whatever they want, and they have just completely adjusted their game plan to, we have these long developing pass plays, we have these big receivers that are going to win one-on-one battles downfield, and they just said we don't have the offensive line to do that. We are going to adjust everything to allow get these quick passing games, get the ball out of Burrow's hands, keep them upright, and then let these guys just become, yards at to catch people. And it's just worked.
Yeah. And Buffalo tried everything. I think sometimes every now and then, like there was that one like 3rd down Hayden Hurst play where it's like they had this crazy exotic blitz. And then like but because of this, like they're having so many different things happening. Hayden Hurst, who just, throws a chip and then runs out to the flat. There's just nobody on him. It's like, it's 3rd down and 10. Just play defense sometimes.
Yeah, they looked a little desperate, basically, didn't it? Like they realized pretty quickly, I think, they didn't have an answer for this team and tried everything. And they were just like, it just felt like they were throwing things after the wall to see what might stick. And then even if something worked on one play, it wasn't working the next play. And I mean, this Bengals team hadn't really run the ball that well for like the past 5 weeks. Dominated on the ground, they dominated through the air. I mean, this was just an impressive win.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, you hear Jamar Chase ends up with 61 yards, Hayden Hurst ends up with 59, and then the next highest leading receiver will be Samandre Pirine with 31. Like you're thinking, okay, advantage Buffalo, but again, it was just like every time whatever they needed to have happen happened. Whatever Burrow was trying to accomplish, he accomplished in this one. You think Romo joked like late in the 4th quarter he missed the throw, and they were like, "Whoa, missed throw! What's this?" Because like he was spot on the whole game. But again, the stat to me for the Bengals offense that jumps out is Joe Mixon 105 yards on 20 carries, 5.2 yards per carry. I mean that's That was shocking.
Yeah, P. Ryan too, 4.7 yards a carry. Joe Burrow
Uh-huh.
had a scrambles, 5.2 yards a carry. It was an impressive
Mhm.
performance on that offensive line. That was incredible. Um, let's talk about Joe Burrow for a second. So this is now his second 3 years in the league,
Yeah,
second
crazy.
straight AFC Championship game,
In the
and
first year he was hurt.
first year he was hurt. Yes, and
Mhm.
I mean this game, obviously the Bengals making it to the Super Bowl, I thought was a big deal, and
Uh-huh.
it was impressive what they did, and I felt like it was just you know, it felt like a huge moment for that franchise. This felt like a statement, like it really just did. He goes to Buffalo. It's snowing like crazy. It's like most quarterbacks don't like throwing the ball once, never mind throwing the ball all the time in that sort of blizzard like conditions.
Mhm.
And he throws 36 passes for 6.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. No interception. Didn't feel like he was even close to throwing an interception. And
Mhm.
I mean, this felt like I think most of us have him as a consensus, like top 5 quarterback in the NFL. This felt
Mhm.
like I'm that dude. I'm one of these guys. You put me in this conversation from now on.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm gonna run a victory lap, even though I shouldn't because I picked this game wrong. But had before the season Joe Burrow higher on my quarterback rankings than Josh Allen. I feel like this game confirms that for me, and we'll get to Josh Allen. I don't think he was that bad in this one or anything, but like, I don't know. I watched Joe Burrow, and I'm like, he is the contender to Mahomes. He is the Peyton Manning to Mahomes, Tom Brady. I mean, we're looking for this stuff. To me, he feels like the guy who is, I think he's number 2 in the league right now. I really do.
Yeah. He's just unfazed by anything. Like we said,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one thing, yeah, there were some missed coverages because they were trying all this different stuff, but they threw
Mm-hmm.
everything they threw the kitchen sink at trying to stop Burrow, and it just
Mm-hmm.
seemed like every time he was just prepared. He was just as cool as ever. It was an impressive game like that, and I thought he was good in the playoffs. I don't think his numbers really did him justice, but numerically wise, it wasn't really that great of a playoff run for Burrow,
Right.
right? And now
Mm-hmm.
this is where the numbers and the eye test is backing up that this guy is at that level. I mean, he's probably the second best quarterback in the NFL for me right now. Like honest, and I think I had that before the playoffs, but this just confirmed it to me that he can go in the snow like this and do this against like I think we have criticized, especially me, I had criticized this Bills defense. It wasn't this bad all season. It wasn't that
No.
bad where it was getting embarrassed like that. That was an impressive run.
Yeah, incredibly impressive. And again, it just goes to show how weird the NFL is. They were a potential Tyler Huntley fumble away from not even being in this game. Just goes to show kind of the things hang on by a thread at times, but then the highs and lows of the NFL.
Well, didn't Derek Carr get down to the 1 yard line against
Right,
them last year and they
close
made
to
the
it, like
Super
the
Bowl? Yeah.
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Get down to the 7 yard line, they make the Super Bowl. The Ravens are down to the 1 yard line. Bengals win
Uh-huh.
that one. They're all of a sudden in this spot. It's becoming feels like a pattern at this point.
Hey, there's the Tuck rule game with Brady in his first Super Bowl. Like every now and then, you need to sweat one out early on. But yeah, incredibly impressive by Joe Burrow. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to switch over to the other side of the ball now and talk about the Bills side of things?
Yeah, we can. Bills fans, you might want to log off. This isn't going to be very nice.
No, you might be meaner
This,
than me, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think we were hoping for this Damar Hamlin story because it was it was obviously a great story. By the way,
Hmm.
it's great that he was there and all that. We didn't need the 4 or 5 camera things to where we couldn't actually see him at all because there was so much snow. And yet they
Hmm.
kept panning to his box where we just see this dark figure standing there. Like they
Right.
couldn't put one camera in the box for 20 seconds to say, "Hey,
Hmm.
look, Damar Hamlin's here." I don't know. That seemed like poor management there on CBS's part. But anyway, um, I think we were all rooting for this story because it was such a great story. But I think it made us kind of blind to the fact that this team, from week 7 on, was an incomplete football team. It hadn't played its best football, it felt like, in months. And I just felt like that was a problem in this game. Nothing about this team. What phase of the game do you think the Bills played well in today? I didn't see a single phase of football that I thought they played well.
Yeah. No, that's fair. This is a disaster by Buffalo. There's no getting around it. This was a disaster by Buffalo. This was a choke in every definition of the term. Um, The one thing I will say, this isn't an excuse. This isn't the reason they lost. I do think the snow hurt them. I think that the weather hurt them for two reasons. One, I think that I do think some of these like there was a missed deep shot to Gabe Davis sort of late in the game with Josh Allen, and I'm like, I don't see him underthrowing it that badly if it's clear conditions. That's just me. I don't
Yeah.
know. But the other thing I saw was the Bengals played a lot of man in this one, and as Romo even brought up, if it's the snow, with the snow, you can't play zone coverage because you can't move as quickly, so you play man coverage. The whole reason I picked Buffalo was because of their splits versus, like when teams go back and just play zone coverage, how they just tear teams apart this season. And I thought the Bengals would play zone coverage. So I think that, again, that's not an excuse. It's not a reason you lost, but that's a little like, okay, maybe that would have made it a little closer.
Yeah, and I thought the defensive line too, especially when they're in those man coverages, I thought the
Mm-hmm.
defensive line did a really good job. They got a little sloppy at times getting caught upfield, letting Allen scramble a little bit. But the
Mm-hmm.
big thing was that the defensive ends contained. The goal was not to sack Josh Allen at all times for Sam Hubbard and Dre Hendrickson. The goal was to keep them in the middle. So when Allen did run, when he did get past those initial blitzers and get upfield, he's running up the middle of the field where your defensive players are. That helped. I thought
Mm-hmm.
so I thought that was a really good game plan for Cincinnati given the conditions. I thought they executed it pretty well throughout that game. But yeah, I mean, I like yeah, you could say the weather played a part in it, but you're the Buffalo Bills. Like this is going
Right.
to play a part of every season for the rest of time. Like if they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be a team that wants to win a Super Bowl, they're probably going to have to win in the snow unless they
Yeah.
change their stadium or put a dome on it. I don't know. So
Is
I
that the move? Dude, should I just go for Go Dome?
I don't know. Maybe a tarp? Can you get a big tarp?
Okay. Maybe a tent, like a circus tent.
Yeah. I don't know. That looks so stupid.
There's things you
uh,
can do. I mean, as Daniel brings up in the chat, it didn't hurt Burrow. Totally fair. Absolutely reasonable to say. But the thing is like Josh Allen doesn't typically miss those throws. That's the only reason I'm
no.
bringing it up. It's like it feels like it's fair to bring that. But again, he missed some other throws. Like Allen deserves criticism for this game. I'm not trying to absolve him. Just absolve him a little.
Yeah. And the big thing with the Bengals too is that the Bills played zone because they don't have the secondary to play man-to-man defense that much.
Right.
They
Mm-hmm.
just don't have the horses anymore with Hyde hurt and with Trey White not being Trey White was horrible in this game. Just straight
Yeah.
up.
He's just not 100%. He needs the, I don't know. I don't know if they rushed him back or what, but he does not look the same.
Yeah, he was bad this season, and I thought he was really bad in this game. So, they're going to have to, evaluate that in the offseason and try and fix that secondary because, you could say if Von Miller's back healthy, they're going to be close again. And I think Josh Allen's good enough to put him in this conversation year after year. But it just seems like this team is bad at little things, and the little things pile up year after year to why they lose.
Yeah, and then now they're just gonna start paying Josh Allen big money, which got some free agents. The windows maybe not closing, but it's not quite as big as it was. I want to talk about the Tre'Davious White thing for a little bit. Actually,
Okay.
is this a mistake by the Bills? How did they use Trade? I mean, White was just covering Jamar Chase a decent amount in this game 1-on-1. Like they're just using him as if he's prime Tre'Davious White. Like, at what point do you say, okay, this guy is not a superstar corner right now? We cannot play him like that. Sure, get him some snaps, but let's not have him be our number one corner. Like I think their defense got, to me, noticeably worse once Tre'Davious White got back from injury.
Yeah. The problem is like they lost their starting safety at the start of the year. That didn't help.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an all-pro safety. They lost
Sure.
their backup safety, obviously, a few weeks ago. That didn't help either. But I think the problem is that the guys they have tried to plug in and replace around this defense have not worked out. I think I just don't think the safeties there had worked out in that spot replacing Hyde. I think they tried this Kaiir Elam thing. He's a rookie. We'll give him more chance. Dane Jackson, I don't think those guys worked out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what would have been the game plan for this secondary? And this was my big reason for picking Cincinnati in this game is I just didn't trust this team all year in the secondary to get stops. And if you're going to put Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, if you're going to put those guys on the field against them, I just don't see a scenario where they get inconsistent stops. Matt Milano is going to have to play like a madman and cover 5 guys.
Yeah, and he still played well. I mean,
Yeah.
he showed up. You can't blame him. But I think there's like they let Levi Wallace walk, right? Who's like, okay, I'm not saying Levi Wallace is a game changer or anything, but like he was a fine corner for them, and he was at least a guy. He did not cost much. Kind of maybe a mistake there in hindsight as well. But again, that is hindsight, 2020. Uh, Kyle, I'll bring up one other thing about the Bills. It's a conversation. So we talk about the stories that are happening. Are the Bills playoff chokers at this point in the Sean McDermott era? They are 5-5 in the postseason, and to just run down kind of the what happened. 2017, that was the Tyrod Taylor year where they lost to the Jaguars 3-10. I don't think you can hold that against them. There was the Josh Allen year 2, which again Josh Allen wasn't good yet, so how much do you want to hold against him? But they still blew like a 19-point lead in that game. If you remember, to Houston, they lost in overtime in a very weird game there. They had it where they made it. They had one AFC Championship berth that was in 2020, but even in that one, they barely beat the Colts when they were the 2 seed against the 7 seed. The Ravens game that came down to that Lamar Jackson pick 6, and then they got crushed by the Chiefs in the conference championship. The following year, they destroyed your Patriots. That's their one kind of thing they can hold their hat on, is that was the clear cut great game. But then they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs in that crazy game, the 13-second game. Can't blame Josh Allen for that, but you can blame the Bills for it. And then this year, barely get by Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins, and then get crushed by the Bengals. I mean, it is starting to become a trend a little bit of them underperforming in the postseason.
Yeah. Is this a bad January football team? I guess is the question. I don't know if it's necessarily choking. I just think, we've talked about, January football can be a little different. And, I think time and time again, we've talked about, this is the big Lamar knock, right? Lamar Jackson can't win in January. Football is just too different. It's much more physical. The line of scrimmage is all that important, all that kind of yada, yada, yada. Is this a bad January football team? I think is the problem. I don't know if that's actually true. I think it is something that's going to be brought up though all off season.
Yeah, I also kind of think about it too as like maybe, but also I think about it like it's not like they're losing to teams they're heavily favored by. I believe the only 2 losses that they were favored was this game and the Chiefs game, but both those are still losing 2 very good teams. So maybe not, probably not. I think either way, I don't think you do anything about it. You keep Josh Allen and you just try to build the best team around him.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, I think, there's a question right now. Like, I think that there's always conversations about, is his team good enough to win a championship, right? And I think, like, I don't think it's necessarily a choking thing, but I think we see time and time again, like, we looked at the last 20 years of AFC football where, it was, largely one team winning a lot of the games. There was times
Steelers,
where
yeah.
yeah, exactly. There were moments where the early 2000 Raiders were regarded as chokers because they kept losing in the playoffs, right? And then eventually lost in the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers. Then started to credit off after that point. Peyton Manning of all people was called the playoff choker for the longest time because he couldn't beat the Patriots for all of that time. Eventually teams started getting them a little bit, but at the same time, like, is it fair to say I just think this is the worst team than Buffalo and Kansas City and Cincinnati right now, and that's why they're not making the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that might be it. I mean, because 0-3, in the last 3 losses are against those 2 teams. Like, there's not really a lot of shame in that. That's probably fair. One thing I also have to say, are the Bengals aware that they also sold conference championship tickets to in every scenario, not just the neutral site one?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think they got that. Someone purposely didn't tell them.
Yeah, it was a fun quote to have in the in the post game interview, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Joe Burrow's the man. We all love Joe Burrow.
Well, yeah, gotta love Joe Burrow. One of the most likable players. I can't wait till he wins the Super Bowl. We all hate him. We're almost there.
Yeah, he just needs to win one or get an MVP or get in one too many commercials. That's how we'll turn on him quickly.
Oh yeah, he's lucky that he always goes. It's him and Mahomes are right. He could be the Peyton Manning to the Tom Brady Mahomes. That could happen.
So everyone just hates Mahomes so much that he becomes likable.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I don't think Manning was that well liked, was he?
Manning was liked. Yeah, Manning was very well liked.
Oh, maybe just in my household he wasn't.
Yeah, I'm sure that you weren't. Yeah, not among circles that you were in.
Yeah. But putting a bow on the Bills, I guess. I think they have some pretty clear roster upgrades they need to make again. But
Hmm.
it felt like they were in this spot last year in everything they tried didn't work, right? You know,
Hmm.
everything they tried didn't work. So you're going to go into the offseason saying, I mean, I think one or both of their safeties are now free agents, Poyer and Hyde. Um, I think they're going to have to. I think Edmonds is a free agent too, actually, now that I think about it. So they're going to
They
have
got
to
a
pay some
bunch.
of,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're in trouble.
yeah, they got to pay some of these guys on defense. You got to add another corner who's going to be able to be good enough on that outside. You got to figure out if this Trey White thing's worth fixing. And then you still got to fix the secondary receiver, which was bad again in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. There's things they have to do. But again, you have Josh Allen. You're just having Josh Allen. I'll still put them at number 3 in my way too early power rankings in the AFC.
That's probably fair.
Uh-huh. In terms of like who has the best chance to win a Super Bowl. So, disappointing loss, but it is not they're not dead just yet in terms of hopes to win a Super Bowl. But again for Cincinnati, awesome win. We'll talk about them more on Wednesday when we preview them going back to play the Kansas City Chiefs. I guess let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, who Kyle, so they won, but at what cost, right? Because
Yeah.
there's this Mahomes injury where Chad Henne, who now has multiple very key drives in divisional rounds, he's Mr. Divisional round, Chad Henne, as he had a 98-yard touchdown drive in this one that was the difference in the 7-point game. Um, uh, you know, Mahomes it starts off this game. It's looking like an all-time great Mahomes performance. I mean, he's going full Mahomes in the best way possible. He's making these unbelievable plays. Things are going spectacularly well. All of a sudden, he gets banged up, and noticeably, he's limping. He stays out there, which I thought was just a horrendously bad decision to just let him stay out there without even checking on what could be wrong. I don't know what they
Yeah.
were thinking there. Eventually comes out of the game, and he has that touchdown drive that I talked about. Mahomes comes back in the game in the second half, but the offense was not as good. He was clearly banged up. Still had a couple of those Mahomes plays in there, did just enough for them to win. But I definitely think it's fair to be a bit concerned if you're a Chiefs fan of just what is the health of Mahomes going into, playing a Bengals team that you've never beaten.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean the high ankle sprain, like that's not something if it is a high ankle sprain, that's not something
Mhm.
that gets better in a week.
Right.
It's still gonna
Hmm.
be incredibly painful to get leg in next week. He's gonna be at way less than 100%, we imagine. But that scoring drive was very impressive. And it was very impressive for Chad Henne to come in and lead a 98-yard touchdown drive,
Yeah.
which I think begs the question, is Patrick Mahomes a system quarterback?
Yes, I think
Even
so. I think
even Matt
clearly.
Castle could have led that touchdown drive.
Sure. Yeah.
No, anyway, it was an incredibly gutsy performance, I thought, from Mahomes. I thought it was incredibly gutsy for this Kansas City defense that had been kind of much maligned a lot this season. Stepping up big again. It just seems like whenever they need this defense to play good, it plays at its absolute best. It makes absolutely no sense. I can't quantify
Uh
it,
huh.
but it just seems like whenever Mahomes slips a little bit, it's like, okay, the defense is just going to be good now.
Yeah, I mean that was absolutely. I mean, the Chiefs defense has players too. Like they're not a defense that doesn't can't do anything. One of the big things about this was just a play of the Jamal Agnew fumble, which was just a backbreaker. I mean, one of the dumbest ways to lose of all time in a playoff game. Of again, they were down 10 points, but just about to get into the end zone. The win probability went from they had a 90% chance before that play, so it's still, or excuse me, 10% chance before that play to win. The Chiefs had a 90% chance to win, put it up to just a 3% chance to win after that play. I mean, that was a backbreaker.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been interesting to see if he can get in. Just trying to do a little bit too much with that play. But it was a weird Jaguars game, and I know this is kind of how this team played all season. Um, but it just seemed like that they didn't really. It felt like really conservative on their part, right? Like it didn't seem like they wanted to draw up any shots downfield. And this is a team that really has this season hasn't been we're taking big shots with this team. We're not going to put Trevor Lawrence in that spot. We're not going to put these receivers we know aren't those kind of players in that spot. But Kansas City's kind of known to give up the big play every now and then. And
Hmm.
you had big play to Kirk that basically bounced off his arms and you kind of went away from it after that.
Yeah. Well, and this is what we talked about in the previous show, right? Was about very much the Jaguars love to attack through the middle, inside the numbers. That's where they like to attack. Really, inside the hash marks. That's where they thrive. And that's where the Chiefs are at their strongest. Their linebackers and Chris Jones. Like, that's where they thrive as well. And so it felt like Jacksonville said, we're going to do what we do. We're going to try to win that way. And they lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple of mistakes on the way too, right? Like they gave themselves a chance, but just one too many mistakes. It looked like a young team that was a little overmatched. And I mean, is this game close if Mahomes doesn't get hurt? It didn't feel like that way, did it?
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell 2 drives, but 10 points in 2 drives. I mean, if they were to keep that up, I mean, this is a complete blowout.
Yeah. It just felt like that. If he was 100%, it felt like Kansas City was going to be able to get what they wanted. And obviously, injuries are a part of the game. You can't make excuses for it. But that had a pretty big turning point that it seemed like Jacksonville might be able to go steal this. But just didn't get enough big plays on offense. I don't know. It was a weird game plan, I thought, overall.
Yeah, you could probably make an excuse for that one. If your superstar quarterback goes down, I think that's a fair excuse.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair enough.
But yeah, no, I agree. I thought that, I do think it's weird. Where I guess here's a question. We're kind of a bit all over the place here, but I think that's fine. The with Mahomes, this is maybe a bit ahead to next week, but I think it's a fine conversation to have now. Of if he isn't 100%, at what point do you put Chad Henne in? Like, I think they kind of hurt themselves a little bit in this one by keeping Mahomes in there potentially. I think maybe having Henne in there would have been better for them because I don't know, Mahomes, like there were some throws that Mahomes just straight up missed, and you could tell it's because of his ankle hurting him.
Yeah. They're not going to go to Chad Henne. But, I mean, I think there is an argument for it. And, I mean, who knows what would have happened if Chad Henne actually kept playing? Like, does Jacksonville's defense adjust? Does that change things? I mean, Isaiah Pacheco also had an incredible drive, I thought, at that point, too, that helped Henne be able to lead that scoring drive. I thought he was really good on that one. Do they change their game plan, basically, to cater to that? But I also didn't think they were very aggressive when Mahomes came back in. And then Mahomes, all of a sudden, it was very clear he couldn't move. Like, at that point, shouldn't like 8 guys be coming at him every time?
Yeah, that might not be well because because typically the thing is you don't blitz Mahomes, right? Because that's but yeah, maybe it's not a bad strategy. Reminds me of the one time when Alex Smith made his return to the NFL and it was all heroic and everything, and then the Rams called a blitz right away.
Yeah, I mean,
Aaron Donald like jumped on his back.
Yeah, just mean spirited, but yeah, I mean, it just seemed like that was I felt like they could have done a billion different things in this game, But yeah, I mean, there's not going to be a conversation about it, but I do think depending on how he starts this game, because they're not going to be able to get away with the same things they were in this one against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's going to be able to go up and down the field on them, you think?
Yeah, definitely. We have Madden Football saying, "Love the show. Keep up the work. Good work, guys." With a super chat. Wow, Kyle, the official Madden Football YouTube account is giving us a super chat. Who knew?
We're big time now. We are
Yeah.
here. We have arrived.
Yeah, absolutely. No. But going back to the game. Yeah. I think it's very fascinating. I don't know. Again, kind of weird. Don't know what else to really say about this one entirely because do we blame Lawrence at all in this game? He missed some throws in this one as well.
Yeah, I do think he deserves some blame. I thought he missed some, like you said, mistake on the interception. So I mean, it wasn't his best game, and I mean, really, it was a bizarre playoffs for him. Where he ends up with 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in the postseason. I think he had some good throws, but at the same time, he wasn't. It just seemed like that he was a tad off for most of the game, and they ran the ball incredibly well too. And I thought that was a weird thing where they weren't down 20. It felt like there was opportunities to also run that they didn't use. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see Jaguars in the offseason, I guess, and how they adjust. And it's a young team that made some young mistakes.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good season for the Jaguars as a whole. I mean, great season. I mean, no one thought they'd be in the playoffs midway through this season. And then you go in, you basically get 3 playoff games under Lawrence's belt because the Titans game was essentially a playoff game. I think you feel great about how this ended up going. My final thoughts about the Chiefs are, I guess, 2 things. For one thing, Travis Kelce's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
he was incredible in this game. Like,
yeah,
how is this guy still so? Why does this guy still get left open against zone? How does he? He's a magician.
yeah. There was a couple plays where there's nobody within 5 yards of him. You're just like, how does that? How do you allow that to happen? Like,
Uh,
there should be two guys on him at all times.
yeah, unbelievable. Well, and again, Andy Reid does some good stuff. Or like at one play, it's like he starts off blocking and then goes out, and it's like a typical tight end. I get how that works, but it's like Travis Kelce blocking should be, oh, okay, he's about to run a route right after this. Like, you should never think that he's just in the game blocking.
Yeah. Yeah, it was some bizarre decision making, definitely. But yeah, I mean, Kelsey was just unbelievable. Like you said, it was what, 14 catches, 98 yards. Felt like he had 198 yards on 98 yards. It just seemed like every time they needed a big play, he managed to come up big. And it was impressive game for him. And there was a couple guys on this Chiefs offense, like I said, Pacheco, I thought, had some moments in this game. He had the big scoring drive, or the drive that led to Kelsey's touchdown. I thought Tony had some moments. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of impact because their quarterback had one leg, but there every now and then there was a moment for all of these guys.
Kyle, so Travis Kelce was in this game, the Chiefs on offense, their highest rated player according to PFF. Guess who number 2 was on offense?
Do our offensive linemen included in that?
Yep, offensive linemen are included.
Joe Thuney?
It was not Joe Thuney. It was the one and only, the player better than Jamar Chase, Kadarius Toney, baby. Tony is back.
Yeah. So what happens if the Chiefs beat the Bengals? Are you doing a Tony over Chase victory lap?
Hey, rings are what matter.
Yeah. that will be fun. That's your Super Bowl the next weekend. Definitely.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's okay. Whoever gets more yards in that one, that is the better player, right?
No.
I don't love my odds of that even in that scenario.
Yeah. Have you bet Cincinnati plus 1.5 yet?
I have not, but I don't get why the Bengals are underdogs in this one. I really don't.
Guess because it's in Arrowhead, but they did it last year. I don't know.
Yeah, they're 3-0. Yeah, I don't get that one, but people probably love to bet on the Chiefs too.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
But yeah, it should be. I mean, I'm so excited for that game. I honestly think this is the best heading into this week. This is the best case scenario. These 4 teams.
Yeah, I think I might be more excited for the other game.
Sure.
You want to get into that one? I mean, this was speaking of statements. This was a absolute statement from Philadelphia, right?
Yeah. Also, I mean, again, you could argue it's a statement from the Giants as well. I won't go there. I'm not going to say that. This was I thought this was, I expected a blowout going into this. I didn't quite expect this much of a blowout, though. This was domination by the Eagles. And, it just goes to show why this team is so difficult to stop, right? I mean, they have so many weapons on offense. Their defense is so good. You could argue, I mean, they're one of the best offenses in the league and one of the best defenses in the league. I've been on the Eagles should be the NFC favorites train from the jump, and I think this is proving it.
Yeah. I mean, this offense kind of felt like on cruise control this game, right? Like, it didn't seem like they did anything. But they scored 38. Like they were just kind of casual with their 38 points in this one. It was an impressive win. This secondary is everything as advertised, and if they can continue this, I mean, they're going to be Super Bowl champions. But it was an impressive performance, I thought, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, let's actually start with the secondary, because, this really just goes to show if you can get this elite secondary, it just makes things so much easier, right? I mean, when you get this James Bradberry, Darius Slay thing, they made that move for James Bradberry, and we said, okay, this is interesting. He's coming off not a great season, but we all saw the upside. And the fact that they hit, and that upside is hit, and Bradberry has played like, Pro Bowl James Bradberry, Darius Slay has played like Pro Bowl Darius Slay, and it just, there were so many plays in this where Daniel Jones is looking down the field for 4 seconds and then pressure's getting, and usually he didn't even have 4 seconds because pressure's getting there sooner. I mean, this is just, there was nothing for him to do.
Yeah. I mean, Reddick and Sweat and just go through that, defensive line, Quinn and Graham, in its own, that's a fine pass rush. I think it's solid. I don't think it's spectacular. I think it's solid, though.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. I mean, it is pretty good. It's, I wouldn't put it in the top 5 or anything, But at the
I put it
same
in
time,
top
when
five.
you
I think it's very good.
but yeah, if you're putting the secondary behind it, it's even better, right? Like
Well,
there's
yeah,
just
sure.
it's impossible to guard that. Like there's just nobody open, and we heard some things about this defensive scheme that is kind of vanilla, but you can be a vanilla defensive scheme when your guys in the secondary are just good at covering the football.
Yeah. And part of it too is I'm including the interior defensive linemen who are also very, very good at rushing the passer. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, you're absolutely right. You have both things work together. Kyle, uh, it was the Cardinals, right? Who tried to make Hassan Reddick an off-ball linebacker. What happened there? How did they screw that up?
yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. And he's such a good pass rusher. Everywhere he's been, he's such a good pass rusher. I don't
Mhm.
know why you wouldn't just put him there and let him do his thing. Um, he got after him in this game. I really like his game. He's impressive.
Yeah. And again, it helps when you get to go up against Evan Neal as much as you do, but it also helps when like you get to stay fresh. Like he had 36 snaps in this one, like because they have so many great players they can just rotate out, and that's kind of what makes this pass rush really so impressive. Isn't just the guys, but the amount of guys, right? It's outside of Brand, I don't know. It's the guys too. This defense is loaded. I mean, this is just I don't know, personnel wise, probably the best defense in football.
Yeah, so just a funny thing because it was a couple years separation, but Hassan Reddick got a 3-year, $45 million contract. Bud Dupree, I think a year before, got a 5-year, $82.5 million contract.
Hmm.
If he's on Pittsburgh, is he getting a $90 million contract probably in the offseason?
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a better pass rusher, straight up, and he's I think he's one of the best pure pass rushers in the league. Like you said, they're able to rotate all these guys in. I mean, they're so deep on the defensive end spots. That's a big thing. Like, none of these guys are superstars, but they're deep at those defensive end spots, definitely.
Yeah, that I agree with. Don't know how much Robert Quinn is helping.
No, no, he's he. You take the chance, but at the same time, it's okay to
Sure.
do that when you have Graham, Sweat, and Reddick. So you can take some chances.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And meanwhile, again, offensively for Philadelphia, it was just as like I said, kind of coasted. But still, this was one of those games where it's just like, like like no one went off. There was no crazy. I mean, Jalen Hurts had 154 yards passing in this one. It was really a running win, but it also kind of goes to show. We talked kind of previewing this of like the Eagles love their second quarter, another 14-0 second quarter in this one. But it's like they get up in the first half and then just run out the clock in the second half. And they're the best run out the clock team in football as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean it really I mean, their two running backs combined for 202 rushing yards on doing quick math here, that's never a good idea. 29 carries. 202 rushing yards on 29 carries for between Sanders and Gainwell. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to win a lot of football games, I think,
Yeah.
too. If you're going to give
Mm-hmm.
up that, that's a problem. And the big thing is like we knew this Giants run defense was bad. It has graded out bad all season. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that this team could just consistently over and over again get to the edge, set the edge, and get these running backs on the edge,
Mm-hmm.
it's a game changer for this one because there's not a lot of pass rushers in the league that are also able to apply to the run and account for this Philadelphia offensive line, which is so good on the edges.
Yeah. It's such an impressive job by them. The flip side, Um, gotta talk about the Giants here. This was a Madden Football for super chat saying hit that like button. Yeah, hit that like button. Very good job. Keep doing super chats. For us to hopefully get more people to hit the like button. Definitely do
Yes.
that if you're watching along on YouTube. But yeah, I mean Giants. I didn't think Daniel Jones was great in this one, which is a bummer because he was coming off of his best game. If he was great, I don't know what would have happened because there wasn't a lot of opportunities for him to do stuff here. I don't know. This was I mean, this Giants team felt like they were. It's kind of like what we said going in, right? I think the Giants are who we thought they were, which is a team that is is not incredibly talented, but gets the most out of what they have. They were well coached. They didn't beat themselves, and they were able to beat bad teams. They were able to beat mediocre teams, even beat a couple good teams, but probably not going to beat any great teams. And they weren't able to even keep this one close.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question is, do we evaluate this Giants team as a team that exceeded expectations this season, or do we evaluate this Giants team as a team that made the NFC divisional round. Because obviously this is a bad look for a team that made the NFC divisional round, but this is the team that, you know, I think if you asked any Giants fan in the preseason, this team's going to make the NFC divisional round and lose by 30, they're all going to be like, "Oh, cool, we made the playoffs." I think the
Right.
expectations preseason were that, and given the situation of the receiver injuries, nothing. Kenny Golladay gave you nothing this year again, and I think that's the thing that they're going to have to figure out going forward. Is like I think they got a nice coaching staff. I think they've harness some of this talent pretty well, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where they got some nice guys in the secondary. Kayvon Thibodeau looks like he's going to be a star in this league sooner or
Hmm.
later. But like you spend all that money on Kenny Galladay, you have the worst receiving core in the league. If it's not the worst, it's right there with the Bears for the worst in the league.
Hmm.
You've invested all of this in the offensive line. Year after year, you're drafting first round offensive tackles. It's still not a very good offensive line. So like it's good that they have this good coaching staff. It's good that they're developing good talent at certain spots, but you just see time and time again, teams can't miss on things like this over and over again and expect to be an elite team. It catches up to you eventually.
Yeah. I don't know what you do go from here if you're the Giants because, like, I think it's I guess there's a couple things. Like for the Giants, I think that you look at this first. If you're a fan, you say, "Hey, this was fun," and you don't think about the future just yet, and you just give it a week and say, "Hey, this is a fun run. I'm glad we got this far. I had a lot of fun." Because that's what sports are, they're for fun. But from here, this after the week when you have fun and you look at the cat friend or the sport track and figure out what exactly is happening for cat space and everything. Um, you know, Giants have 54 million in cat space, but they have some free agents, and the biggest one obviously is Daniel Jones, but you also have Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard. A couple other guys who are players that if you're going to let walk, you have to at least, like Darius Slayton, Julian Love. If you let those guys walk, you have to replace them. Richie James, another one. So they have the money to do it. But the Daniel Jones question is the interesting one. Do you pay Daniel Jones here? Do maybe you tag him? That might be the move. You do a franchise tag. It would cost him money, probably more than he would get with a contract, but at least you don't have to make a decision just quite yet. That's a decision you have to make. So, I don't know where you go from here with the Giants. They're in a weird spot.
Yeah, I agree because it seems like the franchise tag would be like I don't like the franchise tag. I don't think it should be a thing personally, but like the essence of the franchise tag seems like it'd be perfect for a player like Daniel Jones, right? That
Yeah.
you put him on it. But that being said, like what is a quarterback franchise tag now? Like 30 million? More
I'm
than
not sure
that?
exactly what it is, but it might be more. Yeah, it
Because
might be closer to 40. Because I can check.
yeah, because isn't it like the average of the top 5 contracts or something like that?
Hmm.
Anyway, it'd be a lot for this season. You're going to say, okay, we're not going to address everything we need this offseason, but that is something you could do. But yeah, I mean, I do think that they need to find a way to get better at skill position spots. And I think beyond Jones, the Saquon one becomes an interesting conversation because,
Hmm.
you know, historically, you don't pay running backs. You especially don't pay running backs with injury history. But Saquon was also a huge part of this offense. And
Hmm.
he's a huge part of what they want to do to be successful. So are you okay with winning Saquon walk, knowing you're going to have to address running back in the offseason if you want to have as much success? There's some nice running backs in the draft, but you're going to have to figure something out with that.
Yeah. Can I be honest? I think if I'm the Giants, I know this isn't the fun answer. I think I trade Daniel Jones. I think I trade. Tag. I think at least I probably tag Barkley and trade him there, and I probably do something similar with Daniel Jones. I don't think I keep either one of them. Daniel Jones. I think I tag Daniel Jones. I let Saquon Barkley walk. I think that's what I do.
I think I would too. Like, we haven't gotten into draft stuff, but like if they got like a Bijan Robinson, I think you can come in and do what Saquon did. I think that would make a lot of sense. And you reset the rookie calendar basically. I think that makes some sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to figure out how they can improve some of the spots. They desperately need a wide receiver. I mean, they need. Does this team need 3 new pass catchers?
I say
Honestly,
Hodgins is good.
yeah, that's nice. You probably
Hmm.
want him as your third guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you want him as the number one guy. He surpassed expectations, but definitely you gotta work. And they've worked. Spent the first round pick on Kadarius Toney, who some people loved out of the draft. You have the Kenny Galladay thing, which was I thought a pretty safe bet. Like I didn't think Kenny Galladay was going to be a bust like he ended up being. I thought he'd play pretty well for them. So like they tried to make it work, it just didn't work. So I guess just try again.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to reload. I mean, yeah, I don't think we ever envisioned Galladay being this bad to where he's not even playing. But here we
Hmm.
are. So yeah, I think it's going to be it's going to be an interesting conversation for the Giants this offseason because the expectations have now risen, and I don't know if they're. I mean, it's a long offseason ahead. I don't know if they're going to be able to hit that level again.
Yeah, some people in the chat are very upset about the idea of potentially losing both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Like, listen, we just talked about Dak Prescott, how if you don't have a star quarterback and you're paying him star quarterback money, you're not going to be able to take the next step and get to a Super Bowl. We all agree. We all say, ha ha, Dallas Cowboys overpaying your quarterback. But in every single time one of these quarterbacks hits the market, everyone, we got to pay him. Like, no, you don't.
Well, this is the conversation that keeps coming up over and over again, right? Like it was the whole Jared Goff conversation in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
They made a
Or the Kirk
decision.
Cousins conversation, all over.
Well, the problem is like the problem we're running into is like the problem with trying to have an elite quarterback is there's usually only about 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, how only one team if Lamar Jackson actually leaves Baltimore, which I'll believe it when I actually see it. Only
Uh-huh.
one team is getting Lamar Jackson. Only one team is getting Tom Brady. There's still like 22 other teams that are going to have to address their quarterback situation this offseason. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have an elite guy, you have to ask the question about every possible avenue you can take. Do you take a chance in the draft pick? Do you, try and get somebody? Because, yeah, I mean, $40 million for Daniel Jones is going to be a lot of money.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So you have right. The tag would be, I believe, about people are saying in the chat 45 million. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's what people are saying. Would you rather do that, or would you rather pay Jacoby Brissett 10 to 15 million, or Geno Smith, whatever he's? Would you rather pay? Let's just use Jacoby Brissett. If he's going to get 10 million, would you rather do that? Now you have 35 million plus Jacoby Brissett, which doesn't feel like a massive downgrade from Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones was, I'd rather have Daniel Jones than Brissett, I think, but it doesn't feel like a guarantee. You're like Jimmy Garoppolo. There's guys who can give you similar value at a much lower cost. And I think that might be the preferred option. Because again, the fourth team in the conference championship right now is the 49ers. I think a big part of what they've done, I mean, they paid Garoppolo a lot of money, but then kind of his contract ended up aging well. And now he's not on that big contract of, not paying quarterbacks big money. That's kind of the other way that you can have consistent success.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're able, I mean, they need a lot of skill position talent to catch up to San Francisco, but yes.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
But you're not going to get that by paying Jones 45 million.
to be clear, I think we both agree that we think Jones is the quarterback for the Giants next season.
Uh-huh.
But I do think it's fair to ask the question because
There has to be a
as
number.
yeah, as good as Jones was this year, I think it's fair to say he's not, more than fair. I think it's true to say he's not a top 10 quarterback. He's just
Right.
not. And so,
Mm-hmm.
maybe his agent, he and his agent are going to try and get every dollar they can. Maybe by some grace, they say, you know what, we'll take $30 million a year. And you say $30 million is the money we're at. If he wants that full long contract, or if he wants to take the franchise tag of $40 million, I think that's going to be, questionable going forward.
Yeah. I mean, again, right. Did some nice things, took a step forward. He was PFF's 17th rated quarterback this year. He was, one spot behind Mitchell Trubisky in this season. That's not to say that he's like a bad quarterback. He was a mediocre starting quarterback this year, which is there's value in that. But it just you have to say this is the price tag. We're not willing to go over it. And yes, if he says, you know what, I think I can get a 5-year, $40 million deal into open market or something like that, I think you have to let him walk. I think you can't make the move just because option, door number 2 doesn't seem that enticing, because otherwise you get, you're hurting your franchise for a lot longer.
And guess what? Carolina and Washington will definitely pay that kind of money for a quarterback.
Yeah, some team's going to overpay for him. That's the thing. That's what I'm banking on here.
Yeah. Um, Carson Wentz is on the market. What do you think of that?
Oh yeah, so someone will overpay. Someone's going to talk themselves into it. I'm going to
Giants,
be right about
Carson
this.
Wentz.
You've been saying, oh maybe, I think you've been saying, Carson. I think at one point you said he's not even going to be on a team next year. Someone's going to give Carson Wentz 20 million. I'm convinced.
I'll take your bet on that. I don't think it
Okay,
happens.
we'll see. I think
Uh,
it's more likely someone pays him 20 million than he's not on a team next year.
that's fair.
Mhm.
I don't see it happening though. I just don't see
Okay.
it.
Yeah, and again, it all comes down to the money stuff with Jones. Should be an interesting discussion to be had. You can't make the personal decision. The Eagles, again, wrap a bow on them. I don't know, very good. I just I can't get the 2017 vibes out of my head. Right, like, and it's
Mhm.
weird because that's not exactly what happened. Where the Eagle, if Julio Jones makes that catch, the Eagles don't win in 2017. But that just feels like such a uh, you know, uh, they feel so similar to that team, just in the great lines, great secondary. I mean, just great at everything, just loaded teams.
Yeah, they're a complete team top to bottom. I do think they
Hmm.
have one weakness, which we're going to talk about next week because I think it could be exposed, unless you want to talk about it now. But I do think they have one weakness to their team. But overall, I do think they're pretty good across the board, and it's maybe the most complete roster in the league.
Yeah, great teaser for next week, Kyle. As we will talk about that next week. Kyle, is on our picks. It's a 3-point game here, so you didn't make up any ground, unfortunately. But maybe a chance next week to, or maybe you're going to bet the same way I bet next week and just have it all come down to the Super Bowl. Who knows? Plenty of strategies you could go with.
Yeah, I got a lot to think about this week. Getting ready for Wednesday. Um, should be fun. Looking forward to the show.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward to next week. Only 3 games left, Kyle. Not right.
Uh, yeah, I mean it's coming to the end of the season. You gonna watch USFL in the off season?
Probably not. I feel like I typically don't.
I keep seeing that commercial for it, and every time I see the highlight, it looks fake.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose. Yeah, I don't know. I do. It feels like, I don't know, one of those like Key and Peele comedy sketches.
Yeah, like, and it even isn't even that exciting of a hit. Like, it's a decent hit, but
Hmm.
like, it's not like it's not like I was looking at Brian Dawkins take somebody out. Like, I
Right.
I don't know. I probably won't watch. I don't have that much propensity to watch football in the off season.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. There's maybe ways to. I got into the AAF that one year, but I don't know if I can. I think that was probably just because the Orlando Apollos were so good.
Uh, yeah, that's true.
Garrett
Were
Gilbert,
the
MVP.
AAF champions? Wasn't that their thing?
Well, the league shut down after like 7 weeks, so we never actually got a
Yeah.
championship.
They were undefeated, so name them champions.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think they lost 1 game, but that's besides the point. They were, very good stuff. I'm so excited for next week. Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Kyle, remember back in the off season when there was a Teddy Bridgewater banner that got stuck on the screen and I could never get it off?
Yeah.
I just now got it off.
Oh, that's good. How'd you do
Yeah,
that?
I just deleted it, and I every now and then, like, I don't know, like, once a month, I click the X and it just says cannot be done. I did it now, and it went off finally.
Oh, well, there you go.
A great running
R.I.P.
gag for the people that have been listening for a while.
R.I.P. Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I feel great now. This is gonna be way easier. It was so super annoying for that year having to deal with that.
It was just a thorn in your side. Now it's gone. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I feel great.
Thank you, StreamYard. Good job.
Yes, exactly. If you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, this should be available. It's called On the Sideline Podcast. So check that out if that's what you're interested in. And yeah, Kyle, we're getting down to it.
Yeah, like you said, 3 games left. We got the championship games, which is going to be electric. These are, like you said, I think if you could have picked midseason the 4 teams you want to make the conference championship games, you're probably picking these 4 teams. They've been electric this season. Second half of the season, they've been unbelievable. This should be fun down the stretch.
Yeah, very excited for seeing who will eventually and who will get the Lombardi Trophy. I think any of these teams, I'd be excited to see win it all. I think they're 4 likable teams. I know people don't like the Chiefs, but I like the Chiefs. I like all these teams. Either way, you're going to get a great storyline for a great Super Bowl. very fun stuff. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head up?
Looking forward to Wednesday's show. Looking forward to the picks. We'll break it all down for you Wednesday night, 9:00 Eastern. Let's get to it. Championship week. Let's do it.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. Again, thank you to everybody for watching along or listening along, however you're appreciating the show. We appreciate you. Hopefully, we'll see you Wednesday at 9:00 for the pick'em show, or next week at 11 for the recap show. That would be right after the games. Again, thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.